Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Voice the SASHA PoSHcast, your go-to podcast for all things posh. I am Shweta Bhatt, your host, and in this very special episode, I talk to Sukanya Gopinath, Head of Ethics Management Titan Company, Tina Vas, Presiding Officer of the Internal Committee Hinduja Global Solutions, and Rajini GP, Internal Committee Member of Robert Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions. We talk about some of their organization's best PoSH practices and how it helps them. Without further ado, let's dive right into the interviews.
Our strength lay in, bring down the policy from its nitty-gritties to make it just more accessible and understanding the essence of the policy. We use theater as a medium and in the vernacular. And there were various others. So storytelling is the route that we take at Titan. And now that kind of continues in the post-COVID era as well, because we have online sessions and we are constantly giving, we're discussing case studies rather than policies, because we are fairly mature as an organization as far as this policy, awareness of this policies go. So it is more about, creating awareness of people of different situations that they need to probably take care of, as we go further.
Our aim actually has been towards creating awareness so that anyone who faces harassment knows how to complain, who to complain to, what are their rights and responsibilities. So towards that, one of our best practices, Shweta, has been this PoSH awareness. It's a small video that we show employees at the time when they are inducted into the company. So this has been well received, and we think that it sets the, as people enter the system, it sets them on the right footing. The second thing that I would say is a best practice is we began with people manager training on basically the do's and don'ts, how to look for signs of harassment, what is appropriate behavior themselves, and from a leadership perspective, right, to set the right tone and create the right culture. The last one is something that we introduced this year. We did a PoSH survey, an anonymous survey, where we checked on the pulse of employees on how safe our workplace is. Have they faced harassment? How do they feel about generally the practices and the awareness? What else we can do, and so on. So that gave us good insights in order to kind of customize our program and our attention to specific verticals, units, geographies next year.
Best practices, we have many at Bosch, because we would like to have customized, tailored approaches for different segments of associates that we have, starting with people who are joining us new all the way to the management. So multiple approaches we have put in place. But I would say the best three would be the stage plays that we had for all the associates, including our contract employees who are on board. And the second one is the classroom sessions that we curated for the management, where we kind of invoked a very nice interaction and challenged them with different scenarios and cases. There's a second one. And the third one, which we recently introduced is affected ecosystem, which is when we came across a case and we closed it, it would have an impact on people who were involved around the case, which means there could be a set of people who should be sensitized more, who should be provided more awareness. So we would identify such affected ecosystems and conduct classroom sessions for them. So this is something that we started newly last year, and we find this quite effective.
First of all, we make sure that they know who their IC members are, because sometimes I've noticed that, because we run large operations and have such big offices, people even struggle to know who's an IC member, or is there an IC and who should I reach out to. So we've created posters with the pictures of people, which is basically something that you need to do by the law. But further on, we also kind of have on individual desks given them a little cutout of who to reach, how to reach, and so on. Then to take it one step further, once a year, we have IC members do floor walks so that they're approaching people in a non-stressful environment, if I may, where they're just talking about the subject and you're not necessarily seeing the IC member while you're having a case, either as a witness or a complainant or a respondent. You're just seeing them as any other employee trying to share with you what's happening in the space and that kind of thing.
We as IC members, what we do is in all our sensitization or awareness sessions, we make it a point that we come in front of them, not just we show that these are the members you can reach out to in case of issues. We also come in front of them in these sessions and classroom sessions, be it stage plays, wherever, so that they connect with us, they know who are the IC members in the organization. All the IC members lists are published, virtually in our own portal, and it's available in the premises everywhere, so that they're aware who are these members.
Frankly, because of the lockdown, I think we realized, as the lockdown was here to stay, or maybe longer than we anticipated it might be, we kind of realized it was important to create awareness of safe work from home practices. And we were inspired by something that y'all do at SASHA, Shweta, towards that. So we've created a few mailers and screensavers basis that, and we send that out. The other thing that we do is we've converted training to a webinar mode, and to make it more interesting, we have polling, we have breakout rooms. So we've just changed the way we train people. So those are the changes.
So one thing that we are looking at is, unfortunately or fortunately, we are dealing with a case. Luckily for us, we had completed the formal investigation prior to the close down, to the lockdown. But in this situation, we also are looking at the legalities that will be involved. We're getting digital sign-offs from the committee members because they are all in different places. Because we normally have a mix of our committee members come from different locations, right? It's not taken from the same location. So digital sign-offs for the committee members. Then how do we hand over soft copies if in the event that we are not able to hand over hard copies to the respondent and complainant, taking a confirmation from the respondent and complainant saying that, this is the way forward in this period. They'll probably get their hard copies once the lockdown lifts and when we have access to be able to get that across to them. We are also working on our consequence matrix, which is on, it's an internal guideline and document that we have where we are, slightly elaborating on penalties for each of the misdemeanors, the severity based on the severity of that. No, not the inquiry, but we've had the deliberations with the committee members, which we had to do online. I mean, there was no other way to go other than that. It's been effective, and I don't think there is a problem. Deliberations have been fairly fruitful. Yeah, it depends on the nature and the severity of the complaint. I would assume that work from home kind of complaints, if they do come up, would largely be social media kind of led, where we might be able to conduct it online because evidences and things like that might be readily available, but it's hard to say depending on now that we have kind of slowly started opening up our stores, and if there is an incident that does occur, then the challenges of travel, of constituting the committee there, if the severity of the violation is more than what can be managed online. So those, I guess, we will have to take a call as we go along.
When there is a case, what we normally do is we ensure that at least there is one male member, of course, it is as per the policy as well, one male member, and there is an odd number. These things we ensure. And we also make sure that the team that we form doesn't have a direct connection with the complainant or the respondent. So that, we bring about some kind of unbiased, independent inquiry into play. So we carefully select members who are outside of the case that we are dealing with. This is part one. And also we make sure that in the team, there's always a new IC member that is coming into play. It's not that we repeat the same people again and again because they had experience of handling that particular case. We don't load like that. We each time bring in new member so that it is equally loaded across all IC members. And of course, like you said, we also ensure that the IC member is from that particular location itself, so that it becomes easy physically and also practically to be there all through different sittings. So we look at all these parameters and then make a very conscious decision on who should be conducting this inquiry, so that there is no breaking in between or through the course of inquiry.
So yeah, documentation is a big piece of it. We actually have a small, approach office with 2 employees who are basically devoted to making sure that documentation is collected, managed, shared in a way that it's kind of done the right way. In terms of how do we manage confidentiality, I think, for example, if you hand it to a complainant and a respondent, they are educated that they need to keep not just the documents but the whole process confidential. So I think from that perspective, we do that. As a committee itself, we are exchanging documents on emails between our organization and, in the case of the legal counsel, your organization. But outside of that, we make sure that there's no transmission to anybody. I mean, when it was, question of managing files and whatever, in the office, we have a space devoted to this. It's always under lock and key. Even audits, we've been managing in a way that we give the auditor the gist of things without revealing, who the parties are. So we've kind of taken a lot of trouble to ensure there's confidentiality, because we are also kind of giving that comfort to anyone who brings the case to us.
The core IC committee, along with our external advisor, we meet once a quarter. The local ethics council, which is all our ethics counselors across the country, we try and meet definitely once a month or once in a quarter, again with all the different teams. And then we have our board ethics committee, which is a subcommittee exclusively for ethics, which deals with all ethics violations, PoSH, whistleblower, all the policies of the company, where we discuss with the board members on the actions that we've taken on creating awareness, prevention, and of course we also discuss the cases in detail. And the board meets twice a year, if not thrice. The core committee, it is an updation again on the actions that we are taking, on awareness creation, any new ideas or any gaps that they would have, we would have figured out with our LECs, where we feel there is something more that we need to do at a location. And definitely at Titan, there is a lot of trust and openness, and we would like, and that's part of our culture. So we want people to understand that these are there more so as a guideline and to kind of help you when there's a dilemma, and to reach out to us. And we discuss the details of the cases without revealing the location and things like that. Policy updations, amendments, things like that are also discussed at these meetings. But with our local LECs, local ethics counselors, it's a lot of our conversation and a lot of our energy goes into keeping them, motivated to make sure that they reach out to more and more people, more of our employees, more stakeholders. And also, they also need to become confident to be able to clarify, because they are the first responders at any location. So it's got to do a lot to do with training and educating them.
Right from the time that we were constituted, this IC team was constituted, we had this regular monthly meeting or once in 2 months meeting. Every 2 months we all meet, all IC members meet. Once in 2 months we all come together and we discuss about how we can handle cases better. What are the new preventive measures that we have to put in place? How can we improve IC effectiveness itself? And what are the new innovative relevant things that we can bring in place. So there are several such things that we discuss once in 2 months, all of us together, all 20 members together. And also what we do is once in 6 months, we conduct a workshop. That's when we come face to face. We are all together in one place, one whole day. And so that we can focus on this topic. And we also invite external members for this workshop to understand certain best practices, exchange certain notes with them. So this is how we meet, and we feel like a family. In fact, we keep saying that we IC team members, we are like a family. We discuss and we double up, we support, and we are there. And we also know that these IC members really are committed to this cause of PoSH. That's one thing based on which even the team itself is formed.
In this time, what we are doing is, like I said, these times are unprecedented, extraordinary, and we don't want to drum up the anxiety anymore by, while we are having ethics sessions, we are also letting people know that this is more as an education. We are getting our leaders to speak. We are working on a program with our leadership where it's going to be a lot of motivation and a lot of, making sure that we're letting people know that we have their back.
I think the devil is in the details. And I've learned this myself as being a witness to a case. That being a part of an inquiry can be a very uncomfortable time for everybody, especially the complainant and the respondent. So one of the things, Shweta, that we introduced, I think it must be 6 months since we've introduced this now, where we now have a practice that every 2 weeks, we try and reach out to the complainant and respondent to generally check in with them and give them an update of what's happening. Doing this adds a lot of empathy to the people who are going through a difficult process. So we've received some appreciation from people for kind of being kind enough to kind of keep them posted and being proactive.
We have an organization social counselor, and many cases, not just which are not directly given to IC, cases are also routed through HR, but cases are also routed through social counselors because people feel comfortable and very unbiased to discuss with the social counselor. And what we do is, as a best practice, when we see a case that is little vulnerable and sensitive, and we feel that either of the parties there might require some kind of emotional support, or we might have to read the emotional content during the inquiry, we also include social counselor in our inquiries. Not only would it help us during the inquiry stage, it would also help for post-care of the case.
And that was our episode, dear listeners. A very warm thank you to Sukanya, Tina and Rajini for sharing their valuable insights. What did you think about the episode? What did you learn? What are some of your organization's best PoSH practices? Write to us at voice@sashaindia.com. We would love to hear from you. Until the next month, when we come back for a brand new episode, stay healthy, take care, and remember, progress needs prevention and protection.